Hey there, YouTube. This is Abe from Peddler Effects with something very different to show you. This is a digital summation formula oscillator. It's based on a video that Professor Lanterman put up a bunch of months ago. I'll link to the video in the description below. And what I've done is I have built it in hardware, or maybe you call this firmware. There's code running on this Raspberry Pi Pico that's doing the formula summation. This Pico you can ignore. It's a debug probe that I'm using as a serial UART interpreter because the USB serial is disabled here when we're doing USB in. You've got this MIDI keyboard is coming in through this USB hookup here. In terms of the physical controls, the yellow button controls the multiplier. Light is on means that we're using a modulator frequency that is double the frequency of the key that we're going to press. So if we turn it off, then we've got it at half. The blue controls the envelope function. So the envelope here is attack, decay, and sustain. And what it's controlling here is the parameter A in the summation formulas. So if we turn them both down, so we've got almost no attack, no decay. What you'll hear is just the sustain setting, which is right now at the lowest, and then I'll turn it up. So to demo the envelope, we'll leave it just kind of in the middle. As we turn up the attack, what's going to happen is the parameter is going to climb from its minimum value to its maximum value. I found that the values right at the edges of 0 and 1, which are the bounds for that parameter, don't really produce particularly pleasant sounds. So in the code, there's a place where you can set a maximum and a minimum value for parameter A, and you'll see in the GitHub repository where that's set. The attack controls the time from 100 milliseconds to 1 second that it will take to go from minimum to maximum. Decay controls how long it takes, again, from 100 milliseconds to 1 second to go from the maximum to the sustain level. So we'll set both of these like around the midpoint. You can set them longer. And you can set them shorter. So we could go with a long attack, short delay. We could do a short attack, long delay. I'm using extreme settings just so that it'll be really obvious to hear what's happening. The blue button controls the envelope direction. What I found is that when you push the number up mathematically, sometimes it will sound like a going up kind of a sound. It's hard to explain, maybe like a filter opening, something like that. And other times it'll sound like a going down. And so I just put in a simple toggle to control whether you're going from parameter minimum to parameter maximum on the attack, and then to the sustain, or from going from maximum to minimum and then to sustain. So with the blue light on, and with the blue light off. And then the last thing is the red light is on when we're doing a harmonic sound. So the modulator frequency will be exactly twice or half the carrier frequency. If we turn this off, now we have inharmonic sounds, and so the modulator frequency will be multiplied by the square root of 2 in each case. You still have the double or half frequency for the modulator, and then you have this additional multiplier by the square root of 2. So here it is again, harmonic and inharmonic. Here, let's take our carrier note up a bit. That's too high. So that's just a general example of the range of sounds that are going to come through in this mode of using the oscillator. There's a second mode that I've called strange mode because it struck me as strange. And this isn't the limit of what's possible with this oscillator. It's just an example of a different kind of a thing you can do. So I've got that on the push button of the encoder here. When this comes on, it's going to show us 8 different keys. 8 is an arbitrary number. I had 8 pins left to light up these LEDs. So I went with 8, and what I just basically went with was the 7 basic keys, C through B. And then at the end, because I have a love for playing some jazz songs, I added B flat as like an extra. But what this is going to show us here is where our carrier note is C, and our carrier note will always be C. And then the modulation note is going to be whatever is the MIDI note played on this keyboard. So we could just go really simply with a C. Or we could play through the whole C scale like this. And so you can hear at different intervals. Let's see what would be like an interesting thing. Okay, so our C's are all like a pretty plain kind of a note. If we play G, all right, so our perfect fifth is gritty, but still has that kind of a pleasant sound to it. Let's see if we do the third. We're starting, you can hear a little bit of a beat note in there. And then if we really wanted to play something, let's say the minor seventh. Or a second. And then we could turn the encoder, we'll just bump up. All right, so here's D. So now if we play our C, we're getting that rubbing there. D is going to be that nice plain tone. We can play our fifth again. Let's see, fourth, minor fourth. And it's worth saying, again, like I don't remember exactly which note is in there, but it is, the carrier frequency is coded in as a particular note that's coming in. And so even when I'm playing, let's say the fifth, it's going to be potentially up or down some number of octaves. These controls over here, the yellow for the multiplier and the red for the harmonic, inharmonic, are not, they don't have any effect in strange mode, but the envelope direction button will still work because it's the same envelope that's running either way. So we can just take it back down. We'll take it back down to C. We played our C scale. Let's go up to G. And what I'll do now is I'm going to play through a C scale, but with the bass, with the carrier note set to G. All right, so that's, and again, we still got, let's see, with A, maybe that's going to give us more of a minor sound. Then if we go up to B, so that's giving us more of that kind of let's say an uncomfortable kind of a sound. So we'll try one more thing in strange mode. We'll play a quick, just a little snippet of a song that's in B flat. We'll switch over to strange mode, play it again with, this time what'll happen. So what'll happen here is we've got our yellow lights on, we've got our doubled multiplier. So the modulator frequency is always going to be twice the note frequency. When I switch over to strange mode, the note frequency is always going to be the same B flat. The modulator frequency will be whatever note I'm playing. So it produces some really strange textures, maybe, obviously, because there's a different kind of harmonic relationship between the modulator and carrier. Just for the sake of one more demonstration, I don't have any kind of a modular setup, but I took out my Peddler Effects Barn Owl, which is a filter based on the Korg MS-20. Low pass and high pass, and I'm gonna just get a quick arpeggiator pattern going on the keyboard and demonstrate a little bit of what this digital summation formula oscillator can sound like running through a somewhat typical synth filter. Had something like a Eurorack module and you had an input for the note CV and a second volt per octave input that was the modulator CV, and then you could have a third input, probably linear makes sense there, that would set your parameter A using some kind of a CV. But it would let you potentially put a sequence on one of the CV inputs and a keyboard on the other, or two sequencers running off of each other. You could use some kind of voltage divider, voltage multiplier, so that what was going into one of the inputs was always double, half, or some other multiple of what was coming out. Anyway, the GitHub repo is linked below. I'm not going through the code here because I think it's fairly well documented, but put in the comments below if you want a video walking through explaining all of the code setup that's there. I'm happy to put that up separately. Likewise, I didn't walk through the schematic, but the schematic is in the GitHub repo, and I can answer questions in the comments or even post a follow-up video if there's really a lot of interest in this. And please let me know if you end up using this in some kind of a module or a design or something. I would love to hear what you come up with. Thanks for watching.